My name is Megan Riley. I'm 34 years old, and I'm standing frozen in a stranger's backyard, watching my 8-year-old son run full speed toward a man I haven't seen in 8 years. The same man who vanished the week I found out I was pregnant with that very boy. "Mom, come meet Tyler's dad," my son Eli shouted, his voice bright and excited, completely unaware that he was dragging me toward the ghost who had haunted every single day of my life since I was 26. And the man, my ex-boyfriend Marcus, looked right at me. His face went white. But here's what shattered me completely. He didn't look surprised to see me. He looked caught. Before I tell you what happened next, I want you to know this story discusses some really difficult moments in my journey to becoming a mother, including abandonment and the emotional trauma that comes with raising a child alone. Some names and details have been changed to protect the innocent people in this story, especially my son. Now let me take you back to where this nightmare began. 8 years earlier, I was living in Phoenix, Arizona. I had a decent job at a marketing firm, a small apartment I was proud of, and a boyfriend named Marcus who I thought was going to be my forever. We'd been together for 2 years. He was charming, attentive, and told me constantly that he couldn't wait to build a life with me. "I want the whole thing with you, Meg," he'd say. "The house, the kids, the dog, all of it." I believed him. Why wouldn't I? So when I missed my period and saw those 2 pink lines staring back at me, I wasn't scared. I was excited. I was 26, in a stable relationship, and yes, it wasn't planned. But I thought Marcus meant what he said about wanting a future together. I couldn't have been more wrong. If you've ever had someone you love completely disappear from your life without warning, you know the specific kind of pain I'm about to describe. If this story resonates with you, consider subscribing. It helps me share these stories with others who need to feel less alone. The night I told Marcus about the pregnancy, we were sitting on his couch eating takeout. I'd hidden the positive test in my purse. My hands were shaking when I pulled it out. "Marcus," I said, my voice trembling, "I need to show you something." He looked at the test. Then he looked at me. And for a moment, I saw something flash across his face that I couldn't read. Fear, anger, I still don't know. "Are you sure it's accurate?" he asked. "I took 3 of them." He nodded slowly. Okay, this is big. I just need some time to process, all right? Can we talk about it tomorrow?" I said yes. What else was I supposed to say? That was a Monday night. By Friday, Marcus was gone. Not just gone from my apartment, gone from Phoenix entirely. His phone was disconnected. His apartment was empty. His job said he'd resigned effective immediately, no forwarding address. I called his mother, a woman I'd spent holidays with for 2 years. "I'm sorry, dear," she said coldly. "Marcus asked me not to share his whereabouts with anyone. I have to respect my son's wishes." Then she hung up. I stood there holding my phone, 5 weeks pregnant, completely alone, and wondering what I had done so wrong that a man could erase me from his life overnight. But here's what I didn't know yet, and what I wouldn't discover for 8 years. Marcus hadn't gone far at all. The weeks after he left were some of the darkest of my life. I barely ate. I couldn't sleep. I called in sick to work so many times they eventually put me on warning. And the hardest part, I had to decide whether to continue this pregnancy without the partner I thought would be beside me. My own mother didn't make it easier. "Megan, be realistic," she said over the phone. "You're alone now, you have no savings. Is this really the right time?" "He's your grandchild," I said, my voice cracking. "It's a clump of cells right now. You have options." I hung up on her. For the first time in my life, I hung up on my own mother. And I made a decision in that moment, alone in my bathroom, crying so hard I could barely breathe, that I was going to have this baby. I was going to raise this child. And I was going to prove to everyone, including myself, that I didn't need Marcus or anyone else to be a good mother. But just when I thought I'd found my footing, the complications started. At 12 weeks, I started bleeding. I remember sitting in the emergency room, shaking uncontrollably, convinced I was losing my baby. A nurse held my hand. "Honey, is there anyone we can call for you?" "No," I whispered. "There's no one." Those 3 words almost broke me. But the baby was okay. The bleeding was caused by a subchorionic hemorrhage, something my doctor said would likely resolve on its own. They put me on modified bed rest for 2 weeks. I had no one to help me, no one to bring me food or check on me. My mother and I weren't speaking. My friends from before Marcus had slowly drifted away while I was wrapped up in the relationship. I was completely, utterly alone. And yet somehow I survived. My pregnancy continued. The bleeding stopped. I felt my baby kick for the first time at 19 weeks, and I sobbed with joy right there on my couch. "Hey, little one," I whispered, my hands on my belly. "It's just you and me, okay? But I promise you that's going to be enough." At 36 weeks, my water broke. I drove myself to the hospital because I had no other choice. The labor was brutal, 18 hours of contractions, followed by an emergency situation when my son's heart rate dropped dangerously low. They rushed me into surgery, and for a terrifying moment, I thought I was going to lose him. But at 3:47 in the morning, Eli Marcus Riley came into the world screaming. Yes, I gave him Marcus's name. I don't know why. Maybe I wanted my son to have some connection to his father, even if that father was a coward. Maybe I was still hoping Marcus would come back. He never did. Or at least, that's what I thought. Fast forward 8 years. I'd rebuilt my life from the ground up. I'd moved to a new neighborhood in a suburb outside Phoenix, a fresh start. I had a better job, a small house I was renting, and most importantly, a happy, healthy son. Eli was my entire world. He'd started 2nd grade at the local elementary school, and he'd made a best friend named Tyler. They were inseparable. Playdates every week, sleepovers once a month, the whole thing. I'd never met Tyler's parents. His mom usually did the pick-up and drop-off, and I'd only exchanged waves with her from a distance. Tyler's dad, I was told, worked from home and kept to himself. So when Eli got invited to Tyler's birthday party, I figured it was finally time to meet the whole family. "You're gonna love Tyler's dad," Eli told me in the car on the way over. "He's so cool, Mom. He teaches us card tricks and stuff." "That's great, honey," I said, smiling at him in the rearview mirror. We pulled up to a house on Maple Street, 3 blocks from our house. I remember thinking how nice that was, my son's best friend living so close. If only I had known. We walked into the backyard, which was decorated with balloons and streamers. Kids were running everywhere. Parents were gathered near a cooler of drinks. And that's when I saw him, standing by the grill flipping burgers, laughing with another dad. Marcus. 8 years older, a little heavier, hair a little thinner, but unmistakably, impossibly, horrifyingly Marcus. My legs went numb. "Mom, come meet Tyler's dad," Eli shouted, and before I could stop him, he was running straight toward Marcus. This couldn't be happening. This could not be happening. Marcus looked up, our eyes locked, and I watched his face drain of all color. But he didn't look shocked. He looked like someone who had been waiting for this moment, dreading it, knowing it was inevitable. He knew. He had known this whole time. "Meg," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Eli looked between us, confused. "Mom, do you know Tyler's dad?" I couldn't speak. I couldn't move. I couldn't do anything except stare at the man who had abandoned me, abandoned his son, and apparently had been living 3 blocks away for God knows how long. A woman walked over, pretty blonde, holding a tray of cupcakes. "Honey, who's this?" she asked Marcus, smiling at me warmly. Marcus's mouth opened and closed. No words came out. "I'm Megan," I finally said, my voice flat. "I'm Eli's mom." The woman, Marcus's wife, clearly nodded. "Oh, we've heard so much about Eli. He and Tyler are just the best of friends. I'm so glad you could finally make it." She had no idea. This woman standing in front of me had no idea that her husband was my son's biological father. And based on the panic in Marcus's eyes, he intended to keep it that way. I don't know how I made it through that party. Survival mode, I guess. I smiled when I had to. I made small talk with other parents. I watched my son play with his best friend, his half-brother, I realized with a sickening jolt, and pretended everything was fine. But inside, I was unraveling. When we got home, I barely made it to my bedroom before I broke down completely. 8 years. 8 years, I had wondered where he was. 8 years, I had cried myself to sleep, wondering why I wasn't enough. 8 years, I had watched my son grow up without a father, had answered his heartbreaking questions about why his daddy didn't want him. And Marcus had been 3 blocks away the entire time, playing dad to another child while ignoring his own. The questions spiraled. How long had he been there? Did he move there on purpose? Did he know Eli went to that school? Did he engineer this friendship somehow? Or was this all just a horrible, cosmic coincidence? I needed answers. But I also needed to protect my son. Eli was innocent in all of this. He loved Tyler. Tyler was his best friend. If I exposed Marcus, I wouldn't just be blowing up his life. I'd be blowing up my son's friendship, too. For 3 weeks, I did nothing. I didn't confront Marcus. I didn't tell his wife. I just existed in this hellish limbo, watching Eli come home from school talking about Tyler and his cool dad while I bit my tongue until it bled. But then something happened that forced my hand. Marcus texted me. I don't know how he got my number. Tyler probably had it from Eli's emergency contact list. The message said, "We need to talk. Please don't say anything to Jennifer yet. Meet me at the coffee shop on 3rd Street tomorrow at 10. I stared at that text for an hour. Don't say anything to Jennifer yet. So he was planning to tell her eventually. Or was he trying to manage me, control the narrative, make himself look like less of a monster? I went to that coffee shop. I don't know what I expected. An apology, maybe. An explanation. Something that would make 8 years of abandonment make some kind of sense. What I got was so much worse. Marcus was already sitting at a corner table when I walked in. He looked tired, nervous. "Meg, thanks for coming," he said, gesturing to the seat across from him. I sat down but didn't take off my coat. "Talk." He ran his hands through his hair. "I know you probably hate me." "Probably." "Okay, you definitely hate me, and you have every right to. What I did was inexcusable." "Then why are you here, Marcus? Why am I here?" He took a deep breath. "I panicked when you told me you were pregnant. I was 27 years old and completely terrified of becoming my father. So you just left. No goodbye, no explanation, nothing." "I know. It was cowardly. I've spent 8 years knowing exactly how cowardly it was." I leaned forward. 8 years. 8 years, Marcus. Did you know Eli went to that school? Did you know we lived in the same neighborhood?" He was quiet for too long. "Answer me." "I knew," he said finally, and my stomach dropped. "I didn't move here by accident, Meg." The room started spinning. "What?" "After Jennifer and I got married and Tyler was born, I started watching, from a distance. I'd drive by the school sometimes just to see Eli on the playground. I needed to know he was okay." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "You were stalking your own son." "No, I mean, I wasn't." He stopped himself. "I don't know what I was doing. I was weak. I wanted to be part of his life, but I'd already made such a mess of things, and Jennifer didn't know about any of it, and I just..." "You just what?" "Watched him grow up from a distance while playing perfect family man with Tyler." Tears were rolling down my face now, angry tears. "Eli cried for you," I said, my voice shaking. "He asked me almost every day for years why his daddy left. Do you have any idea what that's like? Trying to explain to a 4-year-old why his father didn't want him." Marcus looked down at the table. "I know I can't make this right." "No, you can't. But you need to tell your wife the truth. Today, because if you don't, I will." He looked up panicked. "Meg, please, let me handle this my way. Jennifer, she'll leave me. She'll take Tyler. I'll lose everything." "You already lost everything, Marcus. 8 years ago. You just didn't realize it. I stood up and walked out. That night, I sat Eli down on the couch. This was the hardest conversation I'd ever had to have with my child. Honey, I need to tell you something really important about Tyler's dad. Eli looked at me with those big brown eyes, Marcus's eyes, and my heart cracked in half. What about him? I took a deep breath. Tyler's dad, his name is Marcus. And a long time ago, before you were born, Marcus and I were together. He's your biological father, sweetheart. Eli stared at me. Tyler's dad is my dad. Yes, baby. But he never said anything. He acted like he didn't know me. I know, honey, and that's not your fault. None of this is your fault. Eli was quiet for a long moment. Then he said something that shattered me into 1,000 pieces. Does Tyler know we're brothers? I pulled him into my arms and held him so tight. Not yet, sweetheart, not yet. The next few weeks were chaos. Marcus did tell Jennifer. She called me the day after, sobbing so hard I could barely understand her. Is it true? She asked. Is he really Marcus's son? Yes, I said. I'm so sorry, Jennifer. I didn't know about any of this until the birthday party. He lied to me, she whispered. Our entire marriage, he lied to me. Jennifer didn't leave Marcus immediately, but she kicked him out of the house while she processed everything. Their son Tyler was confused and scared. He didn't understand why his dad was suddenly gone. And my son Eli. He was heartbroken in a way I hadn't anticipated. He didn't cry about Marcus. He cried about Tyler. Are we still going to be best friends? Eli asked me one night. Now that everyone knows we're brothers, is Tyler gonna hate me? Oh, sweetheart, none of this is about you or Tyler. You two will always have a bond, okay? No matter what happens with the adults. It took time, but I was right. Tyler and Eli stayed close. Their friendship evolved into something more complicated, brotherhood, I suppose. They navigated it better than any of the adults did. Jennifer eventually filed for divorce. The court ordered Marcus to pay 8 years of back child support, money I used to put into a college fund for Eli. As for Marcus and Eli's relationship, I left that up to Eli. I told him he never had to see Marcus if he didn't want to, but if he wanted to try building a relationship, I would support that too. Eli chose to meet with Marcus a few times, with a child therapist present. The sessions were hard. There was a lot of anger, a lot of tears. But slowly, something started to shift. Eli didn't forgive Marcus. I'm not sure he ever fully will, but he stopped carrying the weight of his father's abandonment on his own shoulders. He understood that Marcus's choices were about Marcus's weakness, not about Eli's worth. And that understanding, that was everything. Today, Eli is 9 years old. He's in 3rd grade, obsessed with dinosaurs and soccer, and still best friends with his half-brother Tyler. Marcus has supervised visitation once a month, something the courts mandated after evaluating the situation. He's in therapy, too, trying to become the person he should have been all along. I don't know if he'll ever get there, but that's not my burden to carry anymore. Because here's what I learned through all of this. The people who leave, the people who hide, the people who choose cowardice over courage, they have to live with those choices forever. That's their weight to carry. But me, I built a life. I raised an incredible son. I became both his mother and his anchor, and I did it without anyone's help. The man who ran 3 blocks away to hide from his responsibility, he'll always know that he missed it all. The first steps, the first words, the first day of school. He was so close, and he missed everything. That's his tragedy, not mine. If you're watching this and you're in a situation where someone has abandoned you, whether you're pregnant, newly a mother, or anywhere on this journey, I want you to know something. Their absence is not a reflection of your worth. You are not too much, too complicated, too anything. You are exactly enough. And if you're struggling, please reach out to someone you trust. Talk to a counselor, a therapist, a healthcare provider. You don't have to carry it alone. I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever discovered that someone you thought was gone was closer than you realized? How did you handle it? Leave me a comment below. I read every single one. And if this story moved you, please consider sharing it with someone who might need to hear it today. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. You are enough.